The light came first. Bright, cold, white. It poured from above, seeping into his eyes even before they opened. A soft hiss followed. The lid of the chamber slid open with a smooth metallic sound. Mist escaped into the air, swirling like breath in winter. Unit 14 took his first breath. It was sharp and clean, but heavy with the scent of sterilized metal and chemicals. His lungs expanded perfectly. His heart beat like a drum, strong and steady. He didn't panic. He didn't gasp. He just existed. He sat up slowly. Around him, the lab was quiet, too quiet. Walls of pale green metal curved up into a dome. Rows of identical pods stretched on both sides. Some were empty. Some still glowed with soft blue light. Others showed signs of failure, burnt circuits, cracked glass, and lifeless forms inside. A figure approached, a tall alien, thin and pale, wearing a long coat that shimmered with data streams. His black, lidless eyes watched with interest. Unit 14, the alien said. Designation confirmed. Physical calibration complete. Neural pathways stable. Unit 14 turned his head toward the voice, precise and smooth. His body responded like a machine. He looked at the alien but said nothing. The alien continued. You are the 14th iteration. Superior to the last. Faster. More durable. The neural imprint has taken root. You will obey. Unit 14 blinked. Images danced across his vision. Gunfire, tactical maps, Earth cities, combat drills. He knew things. Things he had never learned. He could strip a weapon blindfolded. He knew what fear smelled like. He knew how to kill. But something felt wrong. The alien handed him a mirror. See your origin. Unit 14 looked at his reflection. Short brown hair. Sharp jaw. Gray-blue eyes. Scars that didn't belong to him. The face stared back with a calm, neutral expression. A voice whispered inside his mind. This isn't you. The alien was already walking away, confident in his creation. Around the lab, other aliens operated consoles, checking data, monitoring screens. They didn't look at him like a person. Just another tool. Unit 14 slid off the platform. He landed softly. Balanced. Precise. He scanned the room. No weapons. For exits. 2 armed guards at the far doors. He ran probability estimates in his head, calculations he didn't even know he could do. His mind was a machine, but something inside was waking up. One of the nearby pods hissed. A new clone was forming. Unit 15. The glass fogged up. The body inside twitched. The alien closest to the pod frowned. Code instability detected. Emotional bleed. Terminate. A mechanical arm extended. A needle plunged into the clone's neck. The body inside convulsed once, then went still. Unit 14 stared. The clone inside that pod had his face. His body. His origin. The alien didn't hesitate. Just moved on to the next. Unit 14 felt something then. Not programming. Not calculation. Not a command. It was anger. He stepped forward. Why? The alien paused. Unit 15 was flawed. Emotions are noise. You are not here to feel. You are here to follow. Unit 14 looked down at his own hands. They trembled, slightly. Another voice stirred inside him. It wasn't data. It wasn't part of the system. It was memory. Gunfire. Blood. A voice shouting, Riker. Move. He didn't know what it meant. But it was real. I don't want to follow, Unit 14 said. The alien turned. Then you are also defective. Alarms didn't go off right away. They underestimated him. Unit 14 moved faster than the eye could track. His fist connected with the alien's jaw, snapping it sideways with a crack. The alien fell. Gasps echoed. Technicians backed away. He grabbed a datapad from the fallen alien. Maps. Lab schematics. Security codes. He didn't even pause. His mind processed it instantly. The guards noticed too late. Unit 14 dashed to the side door, dodging a stunned beam. He grabbed a loose pipe and slammed it into one guard's faceplate. The helmet cracked. The second raised his weapon, but Unit 14 was already there, disarming him and hurling him into a control station. The room descended into chaos. Lights turned red. Sirens blared. Doors locked. But he was gone, vanishing into the dark corridors beyond. Behind him, the aliens shouted commands. Shut him down. Neural failsafe, activate. No response. Failsafe not responding. He's overriding it. Impossible. That's not in his code. No, it wasn't. Because Unit 14 wasn't just a weapon. He wasn't just a copy. Something had gone wrong. Or very, very right. The cold in the prison chamber was constant. It wasn't the kind of cold that bit at your skin. It was the kind that seeped into your bones and settled deep inside you. The kind that made time feel slower. The kind that made a man forget if it was day or night. Cade Riker sat in the corner of his cell, back against the wall, arms resting on his knees. His face was gaunt, his jaw covered in a short beard. His dark hair was unkempt, his body bruised and worn, but his eyes were sharp. Still alive. Still watching. He had counted every day since his capture. 112. The Zarn hadn't spoken to him in weeks. They didn't need him anymore. They had taken what they wanted, his DNA, his brain scans, his memories. He had felt it. When they strapped him down, hooked up the machines, peeled back his mind like pages in a book. But they hadn't broken him. He had watched through the small window as guards passed by, always in pairs, always silent. He knew their routines. He knew when the hallway lights dimmed and when the security field flickered for a fraction of a second. He wasn't just surviving. He was waiting. Then it happened. The alarms blared through the corridor like a scream, sharp, metallic, urgent. Red lights flashed overhead. Somewhere above, systems were failing. Explosions echoed through the metal halls. The ground trembled faintly beneath him. Cade stood, his heart steady. This wasn't a drill. A loud bang shook the wall. Someone was fighting their way through the facility. Then, a shadow appeared outside his cell. Tall, broad-shouldered, human. Cade stepped closer to the energy barrier. The figure moved into view. Same height, same build, same face. Cade froze. The man on the other side looked back, just as confused. What the hell? Cade muttered. The other man blinked, tilting his head slightly. He looked just like him. Same gray-blue eyes. Same scar above the right eyebrow. But younger, cleaner. No signs of bruises or fatigue. His movements were smooth. Too smooth. You're me, Cade said slowly. The man on the other side hesitated, then spoke. I'm Unit 14, he said. I woke up in the lab. They used you to make me. Cade stepped back, eyes narrowing. They cloned me. Yes, but I'm not like the others. Something went wrong. I can think for myself. Cade didn't answer immediately. His mind raced. The Zarn had tried this before, cloning, memory transplants, obedience programming. Always trying to build the perfect soldier without the flaws of free will. But if this one had broken free? You came here alone? Cade asked. Unit 14 nodded. I escaped. I didn't know where I was going. Just away. Cade studied him. No weapon. No armor. Just a stolen data pad clipped to his belt. Can you shut this thing down? Cade pointed at the glowing force field. Unit 14 looked down at the data pad. I think so. He tapped a few commands. The barrier flickered, then vanished with a buzz. Cade stepped out cautiously. He stared the clone in the eye. You got a name? The clone paused. No. Just a number. Cade nodded slowly. Then for now, you're 14. They moved quickly. The prison sector was quiet, too quiet. Most of the guards had likely been pulled to deal with the escape upstairs. 14 led the way, using the data pad to avoid security checkpoints. Cade followed closely, moving like a shadow. As they slipped through the halls, Cade kept glancing at him. It was like looking into a mirror, but a mirror that moved on its own. 14 was fast, strong, but something about his eyes bothered Cade. They weren't empty. They held questions. Doubt. Emotion. How many others like you? Cade asked. 13 before me. I don't know how many are still alive. And they're making more? 14 hesitated. Yes. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Cade's jaw tightened. That was the plan. Use him to build a clone army, train them with his memories, weaponize his instincts. But something had gone wrong. What made you different? Cade asked. I don't know, 14 said. I saw one of them kill another clone. I felt angry. I wasn't supposed to feel anything. Cade stopped. He looked at him closely. You're not just a copy. You've got something they didn't plan for. I think so too. They reached a control room near the center of the detention sector. 14 patched into the system and brought up a map. Cade studied it quickly. Here, he pointed. That's the central cloning chamber. That's where we hit them. 14 nodded. It's heavily guarded. We'll need explosives, distraction, access codes, and a plan. 14 looked uncertain. You think we can stop them? Cade gave a faint smirk. They built you from me. That means they built the wrong man to mess with. 14's lips twitched, almost a smile. Let's move, Cade said. As they disappeared down the dark hallway together, two men, one born, one built, The walls of the alien facility trembled again, and something inside both of them had started to burn. They found shelter in an abandoned maintenance tunnel beneath the core labs. The air was stale and warm. Pipes hissed overhead, leaking faint steam that curled through the dim light. The Zarn hadn't used this section in years. It wasn't on their active schematics. For now, it was safe. Cade sat with his back against the wall, checking his bruised ribs. 14 stood nearby, staring at a blank metal panel as if trying to understand its purpose. The silence between them was thick. "You move like a soldier," Cade said finally. "I am one," 14 replied without turning around. Cade gave a short nod. "You've got the muscle memory. But you're green. No real field time. You think too much." 14 looked over. "Isn't thinking better than obeying?" Cade smirked. "Only if you know what you're doing." He stood, stretching the stiffness from his limbs. He was still sore, still tired, but being out of that cell gave him a second wind. There was work to do. The Zarn weren't waiting. "We've got maybe a day, maybe less, before they get this place back under control," Cade said. "That means you've got a crash course ahead of you." "In what?" "Survival. Sabotage. How to think like me, but act faster." Cade tossed him a small metal tube, about the size of a knife handle. 14 caught it easily. It extended into a sharpened pry tool with a flick. "First lesson," Cade said. "Everything can be a weapon. Even this." 14 looked at it, then flipped it in his hand, testing the balance. "Not bad," Cade muttered. "Let's see how you move." They began a series of drills in the narrow space, quiet, simple moves at first. Cade taught him how to disable a Zarn drone, where the weak joints were, how to twist the shoulder of their insect-like frame to break their balance. He showed him how to move silently, how to use the environment for cover, how to kill quickly when there was no time to hesitate. 14 learned fast, too fast. Cade noticed it. Every move he showed, 14 copied with perfect precision. But that wasn't enough. "You're not a machine," Cade said, stepping back after a quick spar. "Don't just mimic me. Learn to adapt. Make decisions." 14 nodded. "I want to." Cade grabbed a data pad from the wall panel. "This thing's got maps, access logs, crew schedules. All we need to plan hits on their weak points." 14 sat beside him, peering at the display. "Why are you helping me?" Cade didn't look up. "Because if they built more of you, Earth doesn't stand a chance." "You think I'm a threat?" "You're not. Yet. But you were made to be." 14 fell silent, staring at his own hands. "I don't want to be what they made." "Then you've got a choice to make," Cade said. "You're not me. And you don't have to be. But you need to figure out who you are, and fast." That night, or whatever passed for night in the underground maze, they moved through the lower decks. Their first target was a power relay hub feeding energy to the cloning vats. Disabling it would slow production, maybe even kill a few unfinished units. They reached the hub without alerting anyone. Cade kept to the shadows. 14 followed, smooth and silent. Inside, 2 Zarn technicians worked at the control board. Cade motioned to hold. But 14 stepped forward, quickly and quietly, and grabbed one from behind, snapping its neck with one sharp twist. The other turned, raising a plasma cutter. Cade lunged, but stopped. 14 didn't hesitate. He drove the pry tool into the Zarn's chest. It crumpled without a sound. It was clean. Efficient. Too clean. Cade checked the bodies, then started placing the charges they had made from stolen parts and battery cores. "You didn't have to kill them both," Cade said without looking up. "They would have called security," 14 replied flatly. "I know. But sometimes, there's another way." 14 was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Is that what you would have done?" "Sometimes. Depends on the mission. Depends on the cost." Cade finished setting the charges and stood. "We don't have the luxury of mercy. But that doesn't mean we stop being human." They moved out before the blast. The explosion rocked the hallway behind them, power surged, then went dark. The next target was a data station near the lab's observation deck. They needed more intel, how far the cloning had progressed, what Virex 9 was planning. Along the way, they passed rows of inactive pots. Some were empty. Some held clones. Some were still forming, half-shaped faces, unfinished limbs, eyes that blinked without knowing what they were. 14 stopped in front of one. It looked just like him. "What happens to them?" he asked. "If the system resets, they'll stay like that," Cade said. "Trapped in those tanks forever." "Do they feel it?" Cade paused. "I don't know." 14 stepped closer. He placed a hand on the glass. "They didn't ask to be made." Cade watched him. "Neither did you." 14 nodded. "But I can choose what happens next." Cade didn't say anything. In that moment, he realized something. This wasn't just a clone anymore. This was someone growing into a person, into something dangerous, and possibly something good. When they reached the data station, Cade let 14 take the lead. He hacked the system quickly, bypassing security like it was second nature. Data's in, 14 said. They've accelerated production. Hundreds of me will be ready in 2 days. Then we stopped them in 1, Cade replied. 14 looked at him. How? Cade gave a grim smile. We do what I do best. We hit them hard, and we hit them where it hurts. Together, they slipped into the shadows once more. One man, and one creation who was becoming more. The silence before the ambush was unnerving. Cade and 14 moved quickly through the underlevel corridors of the facility. Red emergency lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows along the walls. The explosions they had caused earlier had disrupted the power grid. Surveillance systems were down. The clone production lines were slowing. But the Zarn were adjusting. Too fast. Cade felt it in his gut. Something wasn't right. We should have seen more patrols by now, he muttered as they reached a sealed maintenance door. 14 checked the datapad. This tunnel leads straight into the east wing of the central lab. Cade pulled a rusted panel open and worked the manual override. Then let's move. Keep low and out. The wall behind them exploded. Cade was thrown hard against the floor. Smoke and sparks filled the tunnel. A screech echoed as metallic legs clanged against the floor, heavy, fast, and precise. Elite Zarn enforcers. They weren't like the soft technicians or the skinny guards from before. These were fully armored, spider-like war machines with humanoid upper bodies, half organic, half mechanical. Their eyes glowed red. Their arms shifted into blades and plasma cannons. Cade rolled behind a pillar. His side screamed in pain. Something cracked in his ribs. 14 didn't hesitate. He rushed one of the enforcers and slammed a stun rod into its shoulder joint. The weapon sparked. The enforcer shrieked, staggered, but didn't fall. Fall back, Cade shouted, coughing through smoke. 14 leapt back toward him, dodging a plasma blast that scorched the wall behind. There's no way out, 14 yelled. There's always a way, Cade growled, clutching his side. He dragged himself behind a damaged support beam. 14 slid beside him, checking the datapad again. The tunnel we just came through is blocked. Cade peeked around the beam. The enforcers were advancing slowly, calculating every move. We need a distraction, Cade said. 14's hand clenched. He glanced at the half-shattered pipe above them. I can bring it down. Cade's eyes narrowed. You'll get crushed with them. 14 stared at the pipe, then back at Cade. You're hurt. You can't run fast enough. I'll hold them. Cade shook his head. Don't be an idiot. This is my fight, too. You said I had to choose who I wanted to be. I didn't mean suicidal. The enforcers raised their weapons. Cade grabbed 14's arm. Listen, we're not done. You're not just a tool anymore. I need you alive. 14 hesitated. Then he nodded. Cade pulled out a small homemade EMP charge from his pack, one of the last. He tossed it across the floor. It beeped once. The blast was bright, silent, and brutal. 3 of the enforcers collapsed in sparks. The remaining one stumbled, dazed. That was their opening. Cade and 14 ran. The pain in Cade's side was worse now. He was limping, breathing hard. Blood trickled down his ribs, but he pushed forward. They reached a supply alcove behind the cloning labs and collapsed inside, out of breath. 14 grabbed a piece of cloth and wrapped it tight around Cade's side. You've got internal bleeding, he said quietly. Yeah, feels like it, Cade muttered. Good call, by the way. That EMP saved us. You taught me to think fast. Cade gave a small grin, then winced. Let's not make a habit of it. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Outside, the facility groaned as power surged and backup systems kicked in. 14 checked the datapad again. His face went pale. They're speeding up clone activation. A new batch is already maturing. Hundreds of them. Cade leaned forward. Then we don't wait. We take the fight to the chamber. There's more, 14 said. Virex, 9 is there. Cade's eyes sharpened. Good. They got moving again, slower this time. Cade was weaker, relying on 14 to help him climb, to steady his steps. But the fire in his mind was burning brighter now. They passed through a dark viewing deck that overlooked the cloning chamber. Cade stopped, staring down through the reinforced glass. Below them stood rows upon rows of tanks. Green liquid bubbled inside each one. Bodies floated, half-formed. Hundreds of them. All versions of Cade. All nearly ready. And in the center of it all stood Virex, 9. The alien's long fingers danced across a control panel. He didn't look up. He didn't have to. Cade's jaw tightened. There he is. The architect of this nightmare. 14 said nothing. Cade turned to him. You okay? 14 was staring at the clones below. His face was unreadable. I don't know what I feel, he whispered. You're allowed to feel angry. I do. It's not just anger. It's confusion. Sadness. Guilt. Cade reached out and put a hand on his shoulder. You're not them. You broke free. You made a choice. 14 looked down again. But they didn't get that chance. We'll stop it. All of it. Together. 14 nodded. His eyes hardened. We destroy everything. As they left the deck and made their way toward the cloning chamber, Cade knew something had changed. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was personal. For both of them. The door to the central cloning chamber loomed ahead, thick, metallic, and sealed with biometric locks. Cade and 14 crouched in the narrow service tunnel above it, breathing in silence, watching the room through a narrow observation grate. Inside, it was a nightmare. Rows upon rows of glowing pods stretched across the chamber like a twisted garden. Inside each tank, a body floated, bald, pale, and still growing. They were all the same. All Cade's face. All his body. All meant to be weapons. Hundreds of them. Virex, 9 stood on the elevated platform at the center of the room, his long hands flicking across a glass interface. His black, glassy eyes were cold and sharp as ever. Beside him, more Zarn engineers moved like machines, monitoring each pod, adjusting genetic sequences, fine-tuning memory downloads. Cade's jaw tightened. They've accelerated production. I've never seen so many ready at once. 14 watched the scene below. His expression was calm, but his fists were clenched. This is what they made me for, he said. To be one of them. An army of ghosts wearing your face. Cade turned to him. You're not a ghost. You're real. You chose your path. And now it's time to end theirs. 14 nodded slowly. We destroy everything. Everything, Cade agreed. They slid down from the vent shaft into the outer catwalk. There was no turning back now. Cade's ribs still ached, and every step sent pain shooting through his side, but he pushed on. The fire in his chest burned hotter than the pain. They moved like shadows, slipping through the dimly lit corners of the chamber. The hum of machines masked their footsteps. Cade planted the remaining charges at key power conduits, while 14 hacked into the secondary system to override the pod locks. When the last charge was set, they paused near the central walkway, watching the chamber below. Suddenly, a sharp, metallic voice echoed through the chamber. I knew you would come. Virex, 9. He stepped forward onto the central platform, staring directly at them. His expression didn't change, but the lights in the chamber brightened all at once. Security turrets emerged from the ceiling. Clanking footsteps signaled incoming guards. Unit 14, Virex, 9 said coldly. Return to control. Your code is breaking. Let me fix it. 14 stood tall. I'm not your unit. I'm not your creation anymore. You are nothing but a fault in the system, Virex, 9 said. You do not belong. No, 14 said. You don't. He leapt onto the central walkway, landing hard, staring Virex, 9 in the face. Cade followed, keeping his weapon raised. You tried to build a weapon, Cade said. But you built something better. You gave him a soul. Virex 9's voice dropped into a low hiss. That was not part of the design. Exactly. The fight broke out fast. Zarn enforcers stormed the platform, but Cade and 14 moved like lightning. Cade ducked low, using the environment to his advantage, striking weak points in their armor. 14 was faster, sharper, every move precise. He wasn't just fighting them. He was fighting who he used to be. One enforcer lunged at Cade with a spinning blade. Cade sidestepped, slammed a charge into its chest, and sent it crashing over the ledge. Another pinned 14 against the railing, sparks flying from its claws. But 14 roared, tore its arm free, and bashed its head until it cracked open. Virex, 9 tried to retreat to the control panel. 14 saw him. He ran. The alien turned just in time to see 14 tackle him off the raised platform. They crashed to the lower level near the core control terminal. Cade finished setting the final override. 14, he called. I've armed the system. 5-minute countdown. 14 nodded, pinning Virex, 9 to the floor. You lost, 14 said quietly. You tried to control me, but you gave me a mind. Virex, 9 hissed. You are a mistake. No, 14 said. I'm the consequence. He slammed his fist into the core panel, overloading the sequence. The cloning pods began to shake. Sparks flew. Red alarms flashed as the chamber started to collapse. Cade rushed toward him. We've got to go. Now. But 14 stayed still. No. If we leave, the system might recover. They'll reboot the data. Start again. We can destroy the servers. They'll just rebuild somewhere else. 14 looked at him, calm. You escape. You warn Earth. I end it here. Cade froze. You'll die. I was never supposed to live, 14 said, smiling faintly. But now I get to choose how I end. Cade looked at him. You don't have to do this. 14 stepped back, hands on the core. I want to. They locked eyes, clone and original. Not the same. Not anymore. Go, 14 said. Be human for both of us. Cade ran. The hallway trembled as the entire chamber began to collapse. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Pipes burst. Steam shot out in every direction. Cade barely made it to the elevator shaft before the floor cracked behind him. He turned one last time and saw 14 standing alone among the burning pods, staring up at the faces that looked just like his. Then, the world exploded. The blast tore through the chamber. Fire, glass, and steel ripped through the air as the cloning center died in a roar of destruction. Silence followed. Smoke curled into the upper vents, where the stars of Europa hung cold and distant in the night sky. Earth's sky had never looked so different. Cade Riker stood at the top of the Earth Defense Command building, staring out across the horizon. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city. Soft orange light stretched across metal towers, glass domes, and the scars of war that had yet to heal. A breeze rolled over the rooftop, carrying the low hum of air traffic far above. Cade didn't move. His arm was still bandaged. His ribs still ached. But his mind was somewhere else, miles away, moons away, still in that burning chamber beneath Europa's surface. Still with him. Behind Cade, the wide glass doors opened. A general in a Navy uniform stepped out onto the platform. Her face was sharp, her posture straighter than steel. We've reviewed the data you brought back, she said, stopping beside him. Everything checks out. The Zarn were building an entire strike force of clones. All based on you. Cade nodded. I figured they'd use my skills. Just didn't think they'd try to copy my soul. The general crossed her arms. And this? Unit 14. He was the one who helped you destroy the facility? Cade didn't answer right away. He stared down at something in his hand. A small piece of metal, scorched and scratched. A tag. Stamped on it. You, 14. Yeah, he said quietly. He helped me. He's dead. Cade's jaw tightened. He nodded once. I see, the general said. We owe him more than we can repay. Cade kept his voice low. He wasn't just a weapon. He made a choice. A real one. The general stepped back. The council will likely want a full briefing and a recommendation on how to proceed if more facilities like this one are discovered. I'll give them what they need, Cade said. But first. He turned away from the ledge and walked across the rooftop. There, on a small metal wall, rows of names were etched in steel, soldiers lost in the Martian siege, the Titan raids, and the early Zarn wars. A memorial to the fallen. Cade reached into his jacket and pulled out a small steel plate. No military stamp. No serial number. Just a name. 14. He crouched slowly and placed it in the corner of the wall, under the others. It didn't need fanfare. It didn't need explanation. It just needed to be there. He stood and took a long breath, closing his eyes. He remembered the final look in 14's eyes, not fear, not regret. Peace. Not because he had been programmed, but because he had been free. Cade opened his eyes and looked at the horizon again. A new storm was coming. The Zarn wouldn't stop. But now Earth knew. Now they had time. And somewhere deep in the back of his mind, he held on to a memory that wasn't really his. A memory of courage, of choice, of a man who was never meant to be, but became more human than anyone ever expected. Cade turned and walked back into the building, into the noise, into the weight of duty. But he carried something with him. Not just data. Not just victory. A name. A story. A brother.